Olivia Chen straightened the silver photo frame on her desk, a beaming couple on their wedding day, her first successful match, as the clock struck 3. Her next clients would arrive any minute. She smoothed her emerald silk blouse and checked her reflection in her compact mirror, practicing the warm smile that had become her professional trademark. The intercom buzzed. "Miss Chen, the Harrisons are here." "Perfect timing," she murmured, closing her eyes for a brief centering breath. When the door opened, Olivia's practiced smile transformed into something genuine. Daniel Harrison's arm was wrapped protectively around his fiancée Sarah's waist, their happiness radiating through her sunlit office. "6 months ago, you two sat on opposite sides of this couch," Olivia said, gesturing to the plush cream sofa where they now sat intertwined. "Sarah, you told me you'd given up on finding someone who understood your passion for marine conservation. And Daniel, you were convinced no woman would accept your unpredictable surgeon's schedule." Sarah beamed, diamond engagement ring catching the light. "And now we're planning our wedding on the same beach where we had our 3rd date." "That's why I do what I do," Olivia said, her voice warm with professional satisfaction. "At Perfect Pair, we don't just match profiles, we match souls." After the couple left, Olivia's smile faded. She walked to the window overlooking downtown, watching couples stroll hand-in-hand 16 floors below. Her reflection stared back, successful, polished, and utterly alone. Her phone chimed with a text from her mother. "Any promising dates lately?" Olivia slipped the phone back into her drawer without responding. At 32, Olivia had matched 87 couples, resulting in 43 engagements and 29 marriages. 0 divorces. Her success rate was legendary in the exclusive matchmaking world. Her own dating history: 7 first dates in the past year. 2 second dates. Nothing beyond that. "The cobbler's children have no shoes," she whispered to herself, an expression her grandmother used to say. Olivia moved to her consultation room where a whiteboard displayed her methodology, the Perfect Pair algorithm, she called it. Not a computer program, but an intuitive system she developed combining psychology, compatibility factors, and what she privately termed love linguistics, the subtle ways people expressed and received affection. "Compatibility is science," she often told clients, "but chemistry is magic." The irony wasn't lost on her that she could identify potential love connections for strangers within minutes, yet remained blind to her own matches. Or perhaps she saw too clearly every potential flaw, every future argument, every possible heartbreak. Her assistant knocked gently. "Your 4 o'clock cancelled." But Jamie Winters called again about finding someone for his friend. Olivia nodded. "Schedule him for tomorrow. And May. Add my client appreciation event to his calendar. Tell him to bring his mysterious friend." After May left, Olivia opened her leather-bound planner. The weekend loomed empty except for dinner with parents on Sunday, another interrogation about her love life disguised as family time. She traced her finger over Monday's entry, client number 103, Marcus Reed, Jamie's friend. Something about this referral felt different. Jamie had been insistent, almost desperate to help his friend. "He's been through hell," Jamie had said. "But he's ready now, I think." Olivia closed the planner with a decisive snap. She was a professional. She would find Marcus Reed his perfect match, even if she couldn't find her own. Hey there, love Enchanted family. Have you ever known someone who helps others find love but struggles to find it themselves? Our matchmaker Olivia seems to have this problem. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button to join our community of romance lovers. Now, let's see what happens when a professional matchmaker meets someone who might just be her perfect match. Before we begin, this is love from my heart to you. Or maybe, just a small love letter to say thank you. Once upon a time, this channel fell in love. Not with fairy tales, but with the people who believe in them. The ones who cry during the quiet parts. Who pause to feel a heartbeat between the lines. Who still believe that love, even complicated, flawed, impossible love, can be real. Love Enchanted was created for you. The romantic. The hopeful. The heart that's been broken and still dares to open again. So if you're here, you're not just watching a story. You're part of one. Stay with us, for stories that ache, heal, and remind us why love is always worth the risk. Olivia's heels clicked against the hardwood floors of her apartment as she kicked the door closed behind her, arms laden with groceries. The space was immaculate, modern furniture in soft grays and blues, carefully selected artwork, and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with an impressive collection of romance novels and relationship psychology texts. She placed a single orchid stem in a slender vase, a weekly ritual that her grandmother had insisted brought love energy into a home. Olivia wasn't sure she believed it anymore, but couldn't bring herself to break the tradition. Her phone rang. Her mother's face appeared on the screen. "Hi, Mom," Olivia answered, tucking the phone between her ear and shoulder as she unpacked groceries for one. "Darling, I was just calling to remind you about the Chen family reunion next month. Your cousin Lily is bringing her new husband, and Wei Lin is engaged now too." Olivia closed her eyes. "That's wonderful, Mom. You know, Dr. Patel's son just moved back to the city. He's a cardiologist. Mom, I match people for a living. If I wanted to be set up, I'd do it myself." After hanging up, Olivia poured herself a glass of wine and curled up on her window seat overlooking the city. Below, a couple walked their dog, leaning into each other as they laughed at something private. On her coffee table sat a worn photo album. She flipped it open to a picture of her parents on their wedding day, looking blissfully in love. 15 years later, they divorced bitterly, her father remarrying within months. The contrast between that wedding photo and the reality of their relationship had taught Olivia her first lesson about love: appearances lie. It was why she developed her matchmaking methodology, looking beyond surface compatibility to the deeper patterns that predicted lasting connection. Her clients trusted her because she saw what they couldn't see themselves. Yet here she was, 32 and alone, surrounded by fictional love stories and psychological theories about connection, but experiencing precious little of either. Across town, Jamie Winters knocked on his best friend's door, takeout bags in hand. After 3 knocks with no answer, he used his spare key. "Marcus? Food's getting cold." He found Marcus Reed on his balcony, drafting table covered with intricate architectural drawings. Marcus didn't look up, pencil moving with precise, measured strokes across the paper. "You're working on a Saturday night. Again." Jamie set down the food containers. Marcus finally glanced up, dark circles under his eyes. "Deadline Monday." "There's always a deadline." Jamie gestured at the apartment, minimalist and functional, with mathematical prints on the walls and bookshelves organized by subject and author. "When was the last time you left this place for something other than work?" Marcus set down his pencil with mechanical precision. "I went to that coffee shop you recommended on Tuesday." "Alone. I prefer alone." Jamie sighed, opening containers of Thai food. "It's been 2 years, Mark." Marcus's jaw tightened. He moved to the kitchen, methodically setting out plates and utensils at perfect right angles. "I know exactly how long it's been. 2 years, 3 months, and 11 days. Since Elise died," Jamie thought but didn't say. "I made you an appointment," Jamie said casually, serving the pad thai. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "With another therapist?" "Because the last one. With a matchmaker." The fork froze halfway to Marcus's mouth. "Absolutely not. Hear me out. She's not one of those online algorithm people. Olivia Chen is the real deal. She actually studies people, understands them. She's got this crazy intuitive gift." "Intuitive gift?" Marcus repeated flatly. "You mean she makes educated guesses based on confirmation bias and selective memory?" Jamie rolled his eyes. "The engineer in you is showing. Not everything can be reduced to equations, man. Actually, it can. Human attraction follows predictable patterns based on evolutionary psychology, pheromone compatibility, and—" "See, this is why you need help," Jamie interrupted. "Love isn't a blueprint you can draft. Marcus stared out at the city lights. I had love. It didn't follow any logical pattern when it ended, either. Jamie's expression softened. I know. But Elise wouldn't want. Don't. Marcus's voice was quiet but firm. Don't tell me what she would want. They ate in silence until Jamie spoke again. Just meet Olivia. Come to this client event thing she's hosting. If you hate it, I'll never mention it again. Marcus calculated the effort required to keep refusing versus simply attending to end the conversation. Fine. One event. Perfect. Jamie grinned. Who knows? Maybe you'll meet someone who makes sense to that analytical brain of yours. Marcus doubted it. In his experience, emotions defied logic. They couldn't be designed, controlled, or predicted. Like the structural failure that could collapse a perfectly engineered building, love was the variable that no equation could reliably account for. And he had the scars to prove it. Love Enchanted family, are you Team Olivia with her intuitive approach to love, or Team Marcus with his logical perspective? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're enjoying this journey so far, give this video a thumbs up to help others find our story. A client appreciation event? Olivia's assistant May raised an eyebrow as she reviewed the guest list. You've never done one before. Olivia arranged champagne flutes on her desk, inspecting each for spots. It's strategic. Successful matches meeting potential clients creates an atmosphere of possibility. And Jamie Winters bringing his mysterious friend has nothing to do with it? May's knowing smile made Olivia flush. Marcus Reed is just another client, Olivia insisted, though something about Jamie's description had piqued her interest. A brilliant architect who'd suffered a loss but was finally ready to open his heart again. It was practically a romance novel premise. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jamie. Looking forward to tomorrow. Quick question, is it okay if I bring my partner instead of Marcus? They've been wanting to meet you. Olivia frowned. Jamie had never mentioned a partner before. Of course. The more the merrier, she replied, hiding her disappointment. Another text arrived. Actually, Marcus might still come solo. I'll confirm tomorrow. Olivia tried to ignore the flutter of anticipation. She was a professional. Marcus Reed was a client, nothing more. Marcus stared at his closet, phone pressed to his ear. What exactly does one wear to a matchmaker's client party? Jamie's laugh echoed through the speaker. Something that doesn't scream, I haven't dated in 2 years. Helpful, Marcus muttered, selecting a charcoal blazer. Remind me why I agreed to this. Because deep down, you know it's time, Jamie said, his voice turning serious. Listen, slight change of plans. Emergency at work. I can't make it. Marcus immediately reached for his sweatpants. Then I'm definitely not going. You have to go. Olivia's expecting you. Just tell her you're my partner. You're what? My partner. Boyfriend. Whatever. I might have told her I was bringing my significant other. Marcus pinched the bridge of his nose. Why would you do that? Because I panicked. She asked if I was bringing someone special, and saying, my emotionally unavailable best friend, seemed weird. This is insane. I'm not pretending to be your boyfriend. Just for one night. Otherwise, she'll know I lied, and it'll be awkward since she's expecting to meet my partner. Plus, this way you can observe without her trying to match you with anyone. Marcus weighed his options. Going as Jamie's partner meant he could fulfill his promise without becoming a matchmaking project. One night of mild deception versus weeks of Jamie's persistent nagging. Fine. One night. But you owe me. Across town, Olivia was having her own crisis. Jamie's bringing his partner instead of his friend, she told May as they supervised the rooftop setup. Which means I have no idea what Marcus Reed looks like. So, you'll meet him another time. Olivia bit her lip. The thing is, I told Jamie I'd look out for his partner, make them feel welcome. But I have no idea who I'm looking for. May laughed. You're the matchmaker who prides herself on reading people. You'll figure it out. But as guests began arriving, Olivia's confidence wavered. The rooftop venue was stunning. String lights twinkled overhead, the city skyline created a romantic backdrop, and soft jazz floated through the air. Perfect for mingling, terrible for identifying a stranger. After awkwardly approaching two people who turned out not to be Jamie's partner, Olivia made a split-second decision. If anyone asks, she whispered to May, I'm your assistant tonight. Just until I figure out who Jamie's partner is. May's eyes widened. You're going undercover at your own event? I'm avoiding embarrassment, Olivia corrected. Just for an hour. Marcus arrived at the rooftop, immediately regretting his decision. Couples mingled everywhere, clinking glasses and laughing intimately. He tugged at his collar, scanning for the exit. First time at one of these events? He turned to find a woman in a midnight blue dress, her dark hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. Something about her smile made his practiced exit line dissolve. Is it that obvious? He asked. You have that calculating the fastest escape route look. Her eyes crinkled when she smiled. I'm Liv. Marcus. He offered his hand, surprised by the warmth that traveled up his arm when she shook it. So, Marcus, what brings you to a matchmaker's client appreciation night? Success story or hopeful candidate? He hesitated, remembering his cover story. Neither, actually. I'm here with Jamie Winters. Well, I'm here for Jamie. He couldn't make it. Her eyes widened slightly. You're Jamie's partner? The lie felt strange on his tongue. Yes. He got called into work. What a coincidence. I work with Olivia Chen. She mentioned Jamie was bringing someone special. She leaned closer, conspiratorially. Between us, she's been very interested in meeting you. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Nothing special to meet, I'm afraid. I doubt that. Her gaze was appraising but warm. What do you do, Marcus? I'm an architectural engineer. I design buildings that don't fall down. A man who creates spaces for people to feel safe, she said thoughtfully. That says a lot about you. It's just physics and mathematics, he replied, though something about her observation resonated. I don't believe that. Architecture is art with purpose. It shapes how people live, how they interact. She gestured to the rooftop. Like this space, designed to create intimacy among strangers. Marcus found himself studying the layout with new eyes. You're right. The seating arrangements create conversation pockets. The lighting is calculated to flatter everyone. Even the placement of the bar, central enough for access but positioned to create natural traffic flow. She smiled. See, not just mathematics. For the first time in years, Marcus felt a spark of genuine interest. What about you? What do you do with Olivia? Olivia hesitated. I help people find what they're looking for. And what are they looking for? Connection. Understanding. Someone who sees them clearly. Her eyes met his, and something electric passed between them. They moved to a quiet corner, the city lights creating a private universe. Hours passed like minutes as they discussed everything from architectural theory to favorite childhood memories. When she mentioned losing her grandmother recently, Marcus found himself sharing vague details about his own loss, surprised by how natural it felt. Neither noticed May watching them with growing confusion, or the occasional client trying to get Olivia's attention, only to be redirected by the quick-thinking assistant. As midnight approached, Olivia realized with a start that she'd spent her entire event talking to one person, and not just any person, but Jamie's supposed partner. I should probably circulate, she said reluctantly. And I should probably leave before I turn into a pumpkin, Marcus replied, surprising himself with the joke. Can I get your number? She asked impulsively. To keep you updated on Jamie's matchmaking progress, of course. Marcus hesitated only briefly before offering his phone. As their fingers brushed during the exchange, both felt a jolt of possibility, and a twinge of guilt about the deceptions that had brought them together. Have you ever connected with someone under false pretenses? Would you continue a relationship that began with a little white lie? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're enjoying Olivia and Marcus's journey, hit that like button and subscribe for more heart-fluttering stories that keep you guessing. 3 days after the rooftop event, Olivia stared at her phone, thumb hovering over Marcus's contact. Professional boundaries existed for a reason. Dating a client's partner was ethically questionable at best. But he wasn't her client. And the connection they'd shared felt rare, the kind she helped others find. She typed, "Coffee tomorrow? There's a place near the botanical gardens with architecture almost as interesting as your theories." His response came quickly, "Is this a professional consultation?" Olivia smiled. "Just coffee between friends. Unless you need matchmaking services?" "I think Jamie has that covered," he replied. "Coffee sounds good." Across town, Marcus set down his phone, an unfamiliar feeling stirring in his chest. Interest. Anticipation. He glanced at the framed photo of Elise on his bookshelf, her smile frozen in time. For the first time, looking at her didn't immediately hollow him out. "This isn't betrayal," he said quietly to the empty room. "It's just coffee." The cafe was housed in a converted Victorian with stained glass windows casting colorful patterns across marble tables. Olivia arrived early, choosing a corner table where she could see the door. When Marcus entered, something fluttered in her stomach. He moved with precision, scanning the room methodically until he found her. His smile, when it came, transformed his serious face. "This place is architecturally confused but somehow works," he said instead of hello, sliding into the seat across from her. Victorian exterior, Art Deco fixtures, mid-century furniture. "Like people," Olivia replied. "Contradictory elements that somehow create a harmonious whole." Their conversation flowed effortlessly from architecture to psychology, debating whether spaces shape people or people shape spaces. When Marcus described a community center he designed for children with sensory sensitivities, Olivia glimpsed the passion beneath his analytical exterior. "You see buildings as more than structures," she observed. "You see them as solutions." Something vulnerable flickered across his face. Everyone deserves a space where they feel safe. As they walked through the botanical gardens afterward, Olivia found herself sharing stories she rarely told, about watching her parents' love curdle into resentment, about building her business from nothing after professors dismissed her theories on compatibility. "That's why I became a matchmaker," she admitted. "To help people find what my parents lost." "And what's that?" Marcus asked, their shoulders brushing as they walked. "The ability to see each other clearly, even as they change." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "That's the fundamental challenge of architecture too. Building something that remains functional as needs evolve." When they parted, neither mentioned seeing each other again, yet both knew they would. Meanwhile, in her professional life, Olivia faced a different challenge. Jamie had officially registered Marcus Reed as a client, and she was expected to find matches for him. "Tell me about your friend," Olivia asked Jamie during their consultation. "What kind of partner would complement him?" Jamie leaned back in his chair. "Someone patient. He's brilliant but can get lost in his head. Someone who appreciates depth over small talk." Olivia made notes, trying to ignore how accurately this described her own conversational preferences. "Any deal breakers I should know about?" Jamie hesitated. He experienced a significant loss. His fiancée, 2 years ago. Cancer. Olivia's pen stilled. "I'm sorry. He's healing, but slowly. Whoever you match him with needs to understand that grief isn't linear." As Jamie left, Olivia felt a twinge of guilt. She should tell him she'd met his partner at the event. But that would expose both their deceptions, and something selfish in her wanted to preserve the connection with Marcus, complicated as it was. Over the next 3 weeks, Olivia and Marcus created their own world. They met at architectural landmarks, discussing design principles that became metaphors for relationships. They exchanged messages late into the night, debating everything from film endings to whether compatibility was fate or choice. At a sculpture garden, Marcus explained tension and compression principles, his hand guiding hers to feel the balance points in a metal installation. Without opposing forces, he explained, his voice close to her ear, the structure would collapse. Olivia turned to face him, suddenly aware of the tension between them. Is that true for people too? His eyes dropped to her lips. Perhaps. The moment stretched between them, electric with possibility, until Marcus stepped back, clearing his throat. Jamie mentioned you're looking for matches for his friend, he said abruptly. Olivia blinked at the subject change. Yes. Actually, I've arranged a date for him next week. What's she like? Marcus asked, his tone carefully neutral. Compassionate. Creative. She designs children's books. Olivia watched his reaction closely. Jamie says his friend needs someone patient. Something flickered across Marcus's face. Sounds like Jamie has a lot to say about his friend's love life. He cares, Olivia said simply. That's rare. Later that night, Marcus stared at his phone, thumb hovering over Jamie's contact. He should confess the charade was getting complicated. But admitting that would mean explaining his growing feelings for Liv, feelings he barely understood himself. Instead, he texted, "Can't make that date you arranged. Deadline on the Riverfront project." Jamie's response was immediate. You're avoiding living. Elise would hate that. Marcus set the phone down without responding. A week later, Olivia and Marcus sat on a bench overlooking the city, sharing takeout from a Thai restaurant. I have a confession, Olivia said suddenly. I've been trying to match Jamie's friend with someone, but he keeps canceling dates. Marcus studied his noodles intently. Maybe he's not ready. Or maybe he's already interested in someone else. She turned to face him. Do you think it's possible to recognize something real, even when the timing seems wrong? The question hung between them, weighted with unspoken truths. I think, Marcus said carefully, that real connections are rare enough that timing becomes secondary. Their hands found each other on the bench between them, fingers intertwining. Neither acknowledged it, as if speaking would break the spell. Jamie talks about his friend like he's still half living, Olivia said softly. I understand that. After my parents divorced, I built walls. It felt safer to analyze love than experience it. Marcus's thumb traced circles on her palm. What changed? Nothing yet, she admitted. But lately I've been wondering if safety is worth the cost. As the city lights blinked on around them, Marcus faced a truth he'd been avoiding. He was falling for Liv while pretending to be someone he wasn't. Meanwhile, she was trying to match his real self with strangers. The deception that had seemed harmless was becoming a labyrinth with no clear exit. Yet neither could bring themselves to speak the truth, afraid of losing the connection they'd found, a connection built on false pretenses but filled with genuine understanding. Would you continue seeing someone if your relationship began with a small deception? Sometimes the lines between right and wrong blur when hearts are involved. Share your thoughts below, and if this story of complicated connections resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed to Love Enchanted for more emotional journeys that reflect the messy reality of finding love. I found the perfect match for Marcus, Jamie announced, dropping into the chair across from Olivia's desk. My colleague Sophia, brilliant architect, loves obscure documentaries, makes the world's best tiramisu. Olivia maintained her professional smile while her stomach twisted. Tell me more about her. As Jamie described Sophia's qualities, Olivia dutifully took notes while a voice in her head screamed in protest. 3 canceled dates with potential matches, and now Jamie was getting personally involved. I've already told her about Marcus, Jamie continued enthusiastically. She's excited to meet him. I was thinking dinner at Terrazzo, you know, that rooftop Italian place. Terrazzo. Olivia's pen stilled. She and Marcus had plans to meet there tomorrow night. Perfect ambience for a first date, Jamie nodded. I'll set it up for Friday at 8. Olivia swallowed hard. Jamie, are you sure Marcus is ready? He's cancelled 3 times already. 4th time's the charm, Jamie grinned. Trust me, I know my best friend. He just needed the right motivation. After Jamie left, Olivia stared at her phone. She should warn Marcus about the setup, but that would require explaining how she knew, which would expose her as the matchmaker, not the assistant she'd claimed to be. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, looking forward to tomorrow night. Their rooftop design supposedly incorporates sustainable water features. Olivia closed her eyes. The deception that had started as a harmless misunderstanding was becoming an ethical minefield. She was falling for a man who thought she was someone else, while professionally trying to match his real identity with other women. This has to stop, she whispered to her empty office. Marcus stood in the elevator of Olivia Chen's office building, adjusting his tie nervously. After weeks of avoiding Jamie's matchmaking attempts, he'd finally agreed to meet with the famous matchmaker herself, partly to appease Jamie, but mostly to end the charade. He would explain he wasn't ready to date, and the setups could stop. Then he could pursue his relationship with Liv without complications. The elevator doors opened on the 16th floor. A sleek reception area displayed perfect pair matchmaking in elegant silver lettering. A young woman looked up from the reception desk. Mr. Reed? Ms. Chen is just finishing up with a client. Please have a seat. Marcus nodded, choosing a chair with a view of both exits, an old habit from architecture school, always analyzing spaces. The waiting area featured framed photos of smiling couples, presumably successful matches. A door opened, and a woman's laugh floated out. Something about it made Marcus sit straighter. It sounded familiar, like Liv's laugh, but more polished. Before he could process this, his phone rang. Jamie's name flashed on the screen. I'm here, Marcus answered quietly. Waiting to meet the famous matchmaker now. About that, Jamie sounded frantic. I need to reschedule. Emergency client meeting. Can you tell her assistant? Her name's May. Marcus frowned. Her assistant? Yeah, Chinese woman, about our age. Super organized, always in professional clothes. The description matched the woman he knew as Liv. Before Marcus could respond, the inner door opened fully, and a client emerged, followed by Liv. Except she wasn't dressed in the casual clothes he'd grown accustomed to. She wore a tailored emerald suit, hair swept into a professional updo, an elegant nameplate on her office door reading Olivia Chen. Their eyes met across the reception area. Hers widened in shock, color draining from her face. Marcus, she breathed. The receptionist looked between them, confused. You two know each other? Marcus stood slowly, pieces clicking into place. Liv wasn't Olivia's assistant. Liv was Olivia, the matchmaker herself. The woman who'd been trying to set him up with other women while secretly meeting him under false pretenses. Apparently not, he said coldly, turning toward the elevator. Marcus, wait. She called after him, but he was already gone. Olivia paced her office, phone pressed to her ear. Pick up, please pick up. Marcus's voicemail answered for the 5th time. She ended the call without leaving another message. May appeared in the doorway. What just happened? Wasn't that Jamie's friend? The one who keeps canceling dates. And the man I've been seeing, Olivia admitted, sinking into her chair. Except he thought I was your assistant, and I thought he was Jamie's partner. May's jaw dropped. You've been dating your client's best friend while trying to match him with other women? He's not technically my client, Olivia said weakly. Jamie registered him, but we never had a consultation until... well, now. This is like something from one of your romance novels, May said, shaking her head. Except Messier. Olivia buried her face in her hands. I've violated every professional boundary. Worse, I've been lying to someone I care about. So has he, May pointed out. He was pretending to be Jamie's partner. That doesn't make it better. Olivia straightened, reaching for her purse. I need to find him. Marcus stood on the observation deck of the city's tallest building, staring out at the skyline he'd helped shape. 3 of his designs were visible from here, structures built on principles of integrity and transparency, qualities he'd apparently abandoned in his personal life. His phone buzzed again. Olivia. Not Liv, that person didn't exist. A text followed, please let me explain. Meet me at the Botanical Garden Cafe? He silenced his phone, shoving it into his pocket. The betrayal stung more than he'd expected. Not just the deception, but the realization that while he'd been opening up to her, she'd been professionally trying to match him with other women. Marcus. He turned to find Jamie approaching, concern etched on his face. You missed the appointment with Olivia, Jamie said. And you're not answering your phone. Did you know? Marcus demanded. Jamie blinked. Know what? That I've been seeing her for weeks. Except she told me she was her assistant. Understanding dawned on Jamie's face, followed by confusion. Wait, you've been seeing Olivia Chen? How? When? Since your client event. The one where you convinced me to pretend to be your partner. Jamie's eyes widened. Oh God, this is my fault. I told her I was bringing my partner that night, then sent you instead. He ran a hand through his hair. But why would she pretend to be her assistant? Apparently, we're both liars, Marcus said bitterly. Jamie studied his friend. You really like her, don't you? Marcus turned back to the skyline. Doesn't matter now. Of course it matters, Jamie insisted. Look, you both started with a small deception that got out of hand. But what grew between you was real, wasn't it? Marcus remained silent, remembering conversations that had felt more genuine than any he'd had since Elise. The way Olivia understood his architectural metaphors. How she'd sensed the grief he carried without him having to explain. She's been trying to match me with other women, he finally said. While seeing me herself. Because I asked her to find you matches, Jamie countered. And she didn't know the guy she was falling for was the same Marcus Reed on her client list. Marcus shook his head. It's too complicated. Love usually is, Jamie said quietly. Isn't that what Elise always said? The mention of Elise's name hit Marcus like a physical blow. She had said that, laughing, whenever they'd argue about his need to simplify emotional situations into logical components. She would tell you to stop hiding behind complications, Jamie continued gently. At least hear Olivia out. Olivia sat in her office late that night, surrounded by client files. She'd tried Marcus's apartment, the architectural firm where he worked, and finally the Botanical Garden Cafe where they'd first connected. No sign of him. Her phone rang. Jamie. He doesn't want to see me, she said instead of hello. Give him time, Jamie replied. Marcus processes emotions through analysis. Right now, he's recalculating everything. I violated his trust, Olivia said, her voice breaking. And my professional ethics. You both made mistakes, Jamie said. But what you built together wasn't a mistake. After hanging up, Olivia noticed a new email notification. The subject line read simply, Structural Integrity. It was from Marcus. I've been analyzing what happened between us from every angle. The foundation was compromised from the beginning, built on false identities and misunderstandings. Engineering principles would suggest such a structure cannot stand. Olivia's heart sank as she continued reading. However, I've also been considering what you said about buildings adapting to changing needs. Perhaps relationships follow similar principles. The question is whether the core structure, the connection we formed, has enough integrity to withstand reconstruction. I need time to assess the damage and determine if repairs are possible. In the meantime, please stop trying to match me with other women. Olivia read the email 3 times, hope and heartache warring within her. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't a final goodbye either. It was what Marcus did best, a careful, measured analysis with room for reconsideration. She typed a simple reply. I understand. For what it's worth, I was falling for you, not as a matchmaker, but as a woman who recognized something rare. Take all the time you need. As she pressed send, Olivia realized she'd never felt this vulnerable with anyone before. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd built a career helping others find love while keeping her own heart safely analytical. Now she'd broken her own rules and her professional boundaries, and the cost might be losing the first man who'd made her believe in the connections she sold to others. Sometimes the most complicated love stories are the ones worth fighting for. Have you ever faced a crossroads where honesty might cost you someone special? Share your experiences in the comments below, and stay tuned to see if Marcus and Olivia can rebuild what deception threatened to destroy. 2 weeks passed without contact. Olivia threw herself into work, taking on new clients and staying late at the office. If May noticed the dark circles under her eyes or how she flinched whenever Jamie's name appeared in her calendar, she didn't mention it. On Friday evening, Olivia stared at her computer screen, the words blurring together. A new client consultation, her 7th this week, was scheduled for tomorrow morning. She should review the profile, prepare her notes, maintain the professional standards that had built her reputation. Instead, she found herself opening Marcus's email for the 100th time. A knock at her door startled her. May stood in the doorway, coat already on. Enough, May said firmly. You need to eat something that isn't from the vending machine. I've made a reservation at Terrazzo. Olivia shook her head. I can't go there. It's just a restaurant. It's where Marcus and I were supposed to meet the night everything fell apart. May's expression softened. All the more reason to reclaim it. Come on, just dinner between friends. Too exhausted to argue, Olivia gathered her things. Marcus sat across from Jamie at Terrazzo, picking at his risotto. The rooftop restaurant hummed with Friday night energy, couples leaning close across candlelit tables while the city sparkled below. You're not even trying, Jamie sighed, gesturing to Marcus's barely touched food. I told you I wasn't hungry. And I told you that you need to rejoin the land of the living. Jamie leaned forward. Have you responded to her email yet? Marcus set down his fork. What would I say? Thanks for lying about who you are while trying to set me up with other women. How about, I miss you? Jamie suggested. Because you clearly do. Before Marcus could respond, his gaze caught on a familiar figure entering the rooftop. Olivia, looking elegant but tired in a simple black dress, followed the hostess to a table across the restaurant. She hadn't seen him yet. Did you plan this? Marcus hissed at Jamie. Jamie's genuine surprise seemed authentic. Complete coincidence. But maybe the universe is trying to tell you something. Marcus watched as Olivia settled at her table, another woman, her actual assistant he presumed, sitting across from her. Even from a distance, he could see the sadness in her posture, the way her smile didn't reach her eyes as she spoke to her companion. I should leave, Marcus muttered, reaching for his wallet. Or, Jamie countered, you could finally have the conversation you've both been avoiding. Olivia was midway through explaining to May why she was considering a sabbatical when she felt it, that distinct awareness of being watched. She glanced up and froze. Marcus, sitting across the restaurant with Jamie. Their eyes locked, and the bustling restaurant seemed to fade away. For a moment, she saw recognition, perhaps even longing, before his expression hardened into something unreadable. He's here, she whispered to May. May turned subtly. Fate or Jamie's meddling? Does it matter? He clearly doesn't want to see me. As if to prove her point, Marcus stood abruptly, tossing his napkin on the table. But instead of heading for the exit, he moved purposefully toward their table, his expression stormy. Olivia's heart hammered as he approached. May squeezed her hand once before discreetly slipping away, passing Jamie who was doing the same from the opposite direction. Then it was just the two of them, the air between them charged with unspoken words. Marcus, she began. Why? He interrupted, his voice low and controlled. Why pretend to be someone you weren't? The directness of his question caught her off guard. No small talk, no preamble. Pure Marcus. I panicked, she admitted. At the event, when you said you were Jamie's partner, I'd already been embarrassing myself trying to figure out who his partner was. It seemed easier to play along. And afterward, during all our meetings, Olivia met his gaze steadily. The longer I waited, the harder it became to tell the truth. I was afraid of losing what we were building, while simultaneously trying to match me with other women. I didn't know you were the same Marcus, she said, her voice breaking slightly. Jamie's friend Marcus was just a name on my client list until you walked into my office. Marcus's jaw tightened. Convenient. It's the truth. She gestured to the chair across from her. Please, sit. People are staring. He remained standing. I'm not concerned with appearances. Neither am I, she countered. Not anymore. I've spent my career analyzing love from a safe distance, helping others find what I was too afraid to seek myself. Then I met you, and for the first time, I understood what my clients feel. Something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or recognition. You lied about who you were, he said, but his voice had lost some of its edge. So did you, she reminded him gently. We both created a safe fiction because the truth felt too vulnerable. Finally, he sat, though the tension in his shoulders remained. I was going to tell you the truth that night, before I discovered who you really were. And I was going to tell you I couldn't see you anymore, she admitted. Because I was developing feelings for a man I thought was unavailable, while trying to match his doppelganger with other women. The ethical conflict was tearing me apart. A waiter approached, sensing the intensity of their conversation, and retreated without a word. You know what the worst part is? Marcus said after a moment. Despite everything, I still find myself analyzing buildings and thinking about what you'd say about them. How you'd see beyond the structural elements to the human experience they create. The admission hung between them, a fragile thread of connection. I've been doing the same, Olivia confessed. Seeing couples and instinctively applying your theory about opposing forces creating stability. For a brief moment, something like their old understanding passed between them. Then Marcus's expression closed again. The problem isn't just the deception, he said quietly. It's that I let myself trust again. After Elise died, I promised myself I wouldn't be vulnerable to that kind of loss again. Marcus. No. He stood abruptly. I can't do this. The foundation is too compromised. Olivia felt tears threatening but held them back. Is that your final structural assessment? Some damage can't be repaired. His voice was flat, professional, the voice he probably used in technical meetings. Goodbye, Olivia. She watched him walk away, straight-backed and deliberate, as he had entered her life. Only when he disappeared into the elevator did she allow the tears to fall, silent drops on the white tablecloth. May returned, sliding wordlessly into the seat across from her. He's gone, Olivia said simply. For now, May replied, squeezing her hand. But I don't think that's the final blueprint. Olivia shook her head. You didn't see his face. He's an engineer. He doesn't build on unstable foundations. Maybe not, May agreed. But the best engineers also know when something's worth salvaging. As they left the restaurant, Olivia caught sight of Jamie waiting by the elevators, his expression sympathetic. She nodded once in acknowledgement before turning away. They had both tried to help people they cared about find happiness, only to complicate everything with good intentions. The irony wasn't lost on her. The matchmaker who couldn't match herself, undone by the very connection she helped others find. Sometimes the hardest truths come at the moment we're least prepared to face them. Have you ever had to confront the consequences of a well-intentioned deception? Share your experiences below, and stay with us to discover whether Marcus and Olivia can find their way back to each other, or if some foundations are truly beyond repair. Olivia stood before her client wall, dozens of framed photos of successful matches, smiling couples whose happiness she had engineered through careful analysis and intuition. For the first time, the sight brought no satisfaction. "I'm taking a leave of absence," she announced to May, who stood in the doorway with the day's schedule. "For how long?" "I don't know." Olivia turned away from the wall. "I've lost perspective. How can I guide others to authentic connection when I've been hiding from it myself?" May set down her tablet. "One mistake doesn't invalidate your entire career." "It's not just the mistake," Olivia said, running her fingers along her desk's edge. "It's realizing that I've been using other people's happiness as a substitute for my own. Analyzing love instead of experiencing it." She pulled out a leather-bound journal, her compatibility notes from the past decade. Theories and observations that had built her reputation as a matchmaker with an almost mystical ability to see beneath surface compatibility. "I need to understand what went wrong," she said quietly. "Not just with Marcus, but with my approach to love itself." Marcus stood in the memorial garden he designed for Elise, the space he visited when architectural problems seemed insurmountable. The small, secluded garden featured a central sculpture, two intertwined metal ribbons that cast evolving shadows as the sun moved across the sky. "I met someone," he said aloud, as if Elise could hear him, "and lost her before I really had her." A light breeze rustled the Japanese maples he'd selected for their resilience in changing seasons. For 2 years, this garden had been his confessional, the one place he allowed himself to speak openly about his grief. "She saw me," he continued. "Not just the architect or the grieving fiancé, but me. And I pushed her away because she wasn't who I thought she was." He laughed without humor. "Though to be fair, I wasn't who she thought I was either." He sat on the stone bench positioned to view both the sculpture and the city beyond. The garden's design incorporated elements of traditional Japanese concepts. The space between objects, and wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection and transience. Principles he understood aesthetically but had rejected emotionally. His phone vibrated with a text from his therapist, confirming tomorrow's appointment, the first he'd scheduled since stopping treatment a year ago. After seeing Olivia at the restaurant, he'd recognized something in himself that needed addressing. His fear wasn't just about losing someone again, but about the vulnerability of authentic connection. "I think you'd like her," he told the empty garden. "She has your ability to see beneath surfaces." For the first time since Elise's death, speaking to her memory didn't bring crushing pain, just a gentle ache and something new, permission to move forward. Jamie poured himself a generous whiskey, sliding a second glass across his kitchen counter to May. "So they're both miserable," he summarized after she'd updated him on Olivia's condition. May nodded, accepting the drink. "Olivia's questioning her entire career. What about Marcus? Back in therapy. Redesigning projects that were nearly complete. Classic Marcus crisis mode, deconstruct to rebuild." Jamie sipped his whiskey. "This is my fault." "Our fault," May corrected. "I encouraged her to maintain the deception." They sat in companionable silence, united by concern for their friends and guilt over their roles in the situation. "The irony," Jamie finally said, "is that they're perfect for each other. Marcus needs someone who understands that his analytical nature isn't coldness, it's how he processes emotion. And Olivia needs someone who sees that her romantic idealism is actually grounded in psychological insight." "So what do we do?" May asked. Jamie shook his head. "Nothing. They'd see right through any interference. They have to find their own way back, if that's even possible." 3 weeks later, Olivia sat cross-legged on her living room floor, surrounded by client files and her own journals. She'd been deconstructing her matchmaking methodology, searching for the flaw in her approach. Her phone rang. Her mother. "Darling, are you coming to dinner Sunday? Your father will be there with Stephanie." Olivia winced. Her father's second wife was only 12 years older than she was. "I don't think so, Mom. I'm in the middle of a project." "You work too hard," her mother sighed. All those hours helping others find love while you... I know, Mom. While I remain single. Olivia's tone was sharper than intended. A pause. That's not what I was going to say. I worry that you're still trying to solve the puzzle of why your father and I failed. The observation hit uncomfortably close to Olivia's recent self-examination. Our divorce wasn't your failure to solve, her mother continued gently. And it doesn't mean love isn't worth pursuing. After hanging up, Olivia returned to her journals with fresh perspective. She'd built her career on the belief that proper matching could prevent the pain she'd witnessed in her parents' marriage. But perhaps the flaw wasn't in her methodology but in her premise, that love could be engineered to avoid pain. She opened her laptop and began typing a new theory, not for clients, but for herself. Marcus stood in his firm's conference room, presenting revised plans for the community center project. His colleagues exchanged confused glances as he explained the substantial changes. The original design prioritized efficiency, he explained, gesturing to the blueprints. This revision prioritizes connection. The central atrium now serves as a transitional space between functional areas, encouraging spontaneous interaction. His design partner, Sophia, studied the plans. It's beautiful, but it'll add 6 weeks to the timeline and increase costs by 18%. Some things are worth the additional investment, Marcus replied, surprising everyone including himself. Later, as they packed up the presentation materials, Sophia approached him cautiously. Jamie mentioned you were going through something personal, she said. These designs show a different perspective than your usual work. Marcus considered deflecting but found himself answering honestly. I'm reconsidering some fundamental assumptions about structure and purpose. In architecture or life? Sophia asked with a knowing smile. Is there a difference? He gathered his portfolio. I've always designed spaces that prioritize stability and safety. I'm beginning to think I've applied the same principles to my personal life, at the cost of growth and connection. Any particular connection inspiring this revelation? Sophia's tone was gentle but direct. Marcus thought of Olivia, her intuitive understanding of how spaces affected emotions, her belief that compatibility wasn't just about matching traits but about complementary differences. Someone helped me see that the spaces between people are as important as the people themselves, he said finally. Like ma in Japanese design, the negative space that gives meaning to the whole. Jamie found Marcus in his office late that evening, surrounded by books on psychological approaches to architectural design. Working late? Jamie asked, leaning against the doorframe. Research, Marcus replied without looking up. Jamie noticed the book titles. Interesting focus. I'm exploring how built environments influence emotional connections. Marcus finally looked up. Something Olivia understood intuitively. Jamie tried to keep his expression neutral at the mention of her name. Have you spoken to her? No. Marcus closed the book he'd been reading. But I've been thinking about what she said about buildings adapting to changing needs. And I've been stuck in the blueprint phase of grief for 2 years. Marcus stood, gathering his things. Designing a life that prioritizes safety over possibility. Jamie followed him to the elevator. So what now? Now I determine if the foundation can be salvaged. Marcus pressed the lobby button. Not with Olivia necessarily, that damage may be irreparable. But with myself. As the elevator doors closed between them, Jamie saw something in his friend's expression he hadn't seen since before Elisa's illness. Possibility. Olivia stood before her client wall one last time, carefully removing each photo and placing it in a storage box. May watched from the doorway, concern evident in her expression. Are you sure about this? May asked. The office lease is paid through the year, Olivia replied. If I decide to return, everything will be waiting. And if you don't? Olivia turned to her assistant, her friend, with a sad smile. Then someone else will help people find love, and I'll find a new way to contribute. She placed the last photo in the box and closed her office door, the nameplate, Olivia Chen, Matchmaker, gleaming in the afternoon light. Not a permanent goodbye, but an acknowledgement that she couldn't guide others until she understood her own heart. As she left the building, Olivia felt lighter than she had in weeks. The path forward wasn't clear, but for the first time since meeting Marcus, she was facing her fears instead of analyzing them from a safe distance. Sometimes the greatest growth happens in the spaces between our plans, when we're forced to question our fundamental assumptions about love, connection, and what makes a life worth living. Have you ever had to step back from something you thought defined you to discover who you truly are? Share your journey of self-discovery in the comments below. Olivia's temporary office was nothing like her sleek professional space, just a corner desk in her apartment overlooking the city park. For 6 weeks, she'd been consulting remotely with a research team at the university's psychology department, helping develop a study on relationship resilience after betrayal. The irony wasn't lost on her. A notification chimed on her laptop, a delivery confirmation. She frowned, not remembering ordering anything. Minutes later, her building's doorman called to announce a package. The parcel was book-shaped, wrapped in simple brown paper with no return address. Olivia unwrapped it carefully, revealing a large architectural volume, Spaces Between, The Psychology of Architectural Design. A note slipped from between the pages: some structures need to be rebuilt from the foundation. Her heart stuttered. The book wasn't just any architecture text, it was the one she'd mentioned wanting to read during their second meeting, when they discussed how buildings shape human interaction. Inside the front cover, a business card was taped: Marcus Reed, Principal Architect, with an address she didn't recognize. She turned the card over to find handwritten words: Community Garden Project, Saturdays 10 to 2. Volunteers welcome. Olivia traced her fingers over his handwriting, recognizing the olive branch for what it was. Not a declaration or an apology, but an invitation to neutral ground where they might begin again. The community garden occupied what had once been an abandoned lot between 2 apartment buildings. Now raised beds bursting with vegetables and flowers created a patchwork of color against the urban backdrop. A half-constructed pergola stood at the center, its wooden beams reaching skyward. Olivia arrived at 10:15, deliberately late to avoid the awkwardness of being first. She spotted Marcus immediately, sleeves rolled up, explaining something to a group of volunteers gathered around blueprints spread on a folding table. He looked different, more relaxed, his usual precision softened somehow. When he glanced up and saw her, his explanation faltered briefly before he recovered, finishing his instructions to the group. As the volunteers dispersed to their tasks, Marcus approached her, wiping his hands on a cloth. "You came," he said simply. "Thank you for the book." Olivia gestured to the garden. "I didn't know you were involved with community projects." "I wasn't. This is new." He hesitated. "Would you like a tour?" They walked the perimeter of the garden, Marcus explaining the design principles: maximizing sunlight, creating microclimate zones, ensuring accessibility for all abilities. His passion was evident in every detail. "The pergola is the final phase," he explained, stopping before the wooden structure. "It'll create a gathering space where residents can share meals grown from the garden. A place where nourishment and connection merge," Olivia observed. "It's beautiful." Marcus studied her for a moment. "Would you like to help? We're setting the cross beams today." The invitation surprised her, not conversation over coffee or dinner, but shared work. Perhaps that was exactly what they needed. "I should warn you," she said, accepting work gloves from a nearby table. "I have no construction experience." "I'll teach you," he replied, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. For the next 2 hours, they worked side by side, their conversation limited to practical instructions. The physical labor was unexpectedly therapeutic. Measuring, lifting, securing beams that would support a structure designed to bring people together. As they paused for water, Olivia noticed Marcus watching her. "What?" she asked, suddenly self-conscious. "You have sawdust in your hair." He reached out instinctively, then stopped himself. The moment stretched between them, laden with unspoken words. "Marcus," she began carefully, Why did you invite me here? He considered the question, taking a slow drink of water before answering. Because I needed to see you in a different context. Not as the matchmaker or as Liv the assistant, but just as yourself. And I've missed you, he admitted quietly. Despite everything. The simple honesty of his statement caught her off guard. No architectural metaphors, no analytical distance, just truth. I've missed you too, she replied. But is that enough? The foundation was compromised, as you said. Marcus gestured to the garden around them. Do you know what this space was before? A vacant lot where 2 buildings had been demolished after structural failure. The soil was contaminated, the ground unstable. He met her eyes directly. Some things can be reclaimed, Olivia. With enough care and the right approach. Is that what you want? To reclaim what we started. I want to build something honest this time. He set down his water bottle. But first, I need to show you something. The memorial garden was quiet in the afternoon light, the intertwined metal sculpture casting complex shadows across the stone pathway. Olivia followed Marcus silently, understanding the significance of him bringing her to this place. I designed this after Elise died, he explained, stopping before the sculpture. She was a botanical illustrator. She would have loved what you're doing with the university study. She always said I approached emotions too analytically. Olivia studied the sculpture, how the metal ribbons seemed both separate and connected, creating different patterns as the light changed. It's beautiful, she said softly. The way it transforms throughout the day. Like grief, Marcus replied. Always present but changing form. He turned to face her directly. I've been hiding in my grief, using it as an excuse to avoid vulnerability. Meeting you forced me to confront that. Olivia felt tears threatening. I've been hiding too, behind my professional persona, analyzing love instead of risking it. We're quite a pair, Marcus said with a sad smile. The architect afraid to build a life and the matchmaker afraid to find a match. The observation hung between them, honest, painful, and strangely freeing. I've been deconstructing my matchmaking methodology, Olivia admitted. I built my career on the belief that proper analysis could prevent pain. But I was wrong. What did you discover? That connection isn't about avoiding risk, it's about finding someone worth risking for. She met his gaze steadily. I'm sorry I wasn't honest about who I was. I wasn't honest either, he countered. Not just about my identity, but about being ready to move forward. He gestured to the garden around them. I've been coming here for 2 years, talking to Elise's memory instead of living my life. And now I'm designing spaces that prioritize connection over safety. His eyes held hers. In architecture and in life. Olivia felt something shift between them, not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. They had both been hiding, both been afraid, both been lying to themselves as much as to each other. So where does that leave us? She asked. Marcus considered the question with characteristic thoughtfulness. I think it leaves us with a choice. We can walk away, lessons learned. Or we can try again, this time with complete honesty. Even if it's harder, especially if it's harder. He reached for her hand tentatively. The strongest structures are tested during construction. Olivia laced her fingers through his, the contact sending warmth through her palm. I'd like to try again. Properly this time. No more pretending to be someone else. His smile reached his eyes now. No more hiding, she agreed. Though I should warn you, the real Olivia Chen is much more complicated than her assistant. Good, Marcus said simply. I'm not interested in simple anymore. 3 months later, Olivia stood in the completed community garden pergola, fairy lights twinkling overhead as residents gathered for the inaugural harvest dinner. Long tables lined with food from the garden created a communal atmosphere that hummed with conversation and laughter. She felt Marcus approach before she saw him, that awareness between them having grown stronger with honest communication. Successful structural completion, she said, leaning into him as his arms slipped around her waist. The true test of design is how it's lived in, he replied, watching the diverse group of neighbors sharing food and stories. So far, it seems to be working. Like us. Olivia turned to face him, her expression open and questioning. Marcus considered her with the focused attention she'd come to treasure. We're still in the construction phase, he said seriously, before his expression softened. But the foundation is solid this time. Built on honesty, she agreed, and a willingness to adapt the blueprints as needed. As they joined the community table, Olivia reflected on their journey, how deception had led to truth, how pain had created growth, how two people afraid of connection had found their way to each other through the very fears that had kept them apart. Their relationship wasn't perfect. They still navigated the complexities of her career transition and his ongoing grief. But they faced these challenges together, with an authenticity neither had allowed themselves before. The matchmaker had finally found her match, not through careful analysis or compatibility algorithms, but through the messy, imperfect process of revealing their true selves to each other, flaws and all. Do you believe that sometimes the right person comes at the wrong time? Or is timing everything in love? Life rarely follows the perfect script we imagine, and sometimes the most beautiful connections emerge from our most vulnerable moments. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the notification bell to see more stories of unexpected love on Love Enchanted. And remember, sometimes the strongest foundations are built where structures once failed. 1 year later, sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the renovated warehouse space, illuminating the new sign being installed above the entrance: Blueprint Connections, Relationship Architecture. Olivia watched from across the street, Marcus's hand steady in hers as the final letter was secured in place. The space looked nothing like her former sleek, corporate office. Exposed brick walls, reclaimed wood beams, and carefully designed conversation areas created an atmosphere that felt both professional and deeply personal. "What do you think?" Marcus asked, studying her expression. "It's perfect," she replied, squeezing his hand. "Exactly as we designed it." After 6 months of dating honestly, working through their fears, sharing their vulnerabilities, and building trust, they had begun collaborating professionally. Olivia's research with the university had evolved into a new approach to relationship counseling, while Marcus had discovered a passion for designing spaces that facilitated human connection. Blueprint Connections was the result: part matchmaking service, part relationship counseling center, part architectural consultancy. Couples could work with both of them, Olivia helping navigate emotional blueprints while Marcus designed physical spaces that supported connection rather than isolation. "Ready to go inside?" he asked, checking his watch. "The first clients arrive in an hour." Olivia nodded, though nervousness fluttered in her stomach. This venture represented everything she'd learned about love, that it wasn't about perfect matching but about creating space for growth, that connection required both structure and flexibility, that the most beautiful relationships were built through continuous, honest reconstruction. Inside, May was arranging fresh flowers in the reception area while Jamie adjusted the lighting in the consultation room. "The power couple arrives," Jamie announced with a grin. "How does it feel to be revolutionizing 2 industries at once?" "Terrifying," Olivia admitted. "Exhilarating. Worth the risk," Marcus added, his arm slipping around her waist. As their friends continued the final preparations, Marcus guided Olivia to the small courtyard garden he designed at the center of the building, a quiet oasis with a fountain whose water flowed over stones collected from places significant to their journey. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. "A 1-year anniversary gift." He handed her a small velvet pouch. Inside was a silver key on a simple chain. "It's beautiful," she said, "but we already have keys to the office." Marcus smiled. "It's not for the office. It's for this." He handed her a set of blueprints, carefully rolled and tied with blue ribbon. Olivia unrolled them to reveal plans for a house, modern yet warm, with spaces designed for both solitude and togetherness. "You designed us a home," she whispered, tracing the details with her fingertip. A home with room to grow, he confirmed. If you're ready for that next blueprint. Olivia studied the plans, noting the careful attention to light, to flow, to the balance of private and shared spaces. But what caught her eye was the small garden courtyard at the center, a replica of Elisa's memorial garden connected to a new space with 2 intertwined trees. Honoring the past while building our future, she realized aloud. Marcus nodded, his eyes reflecting both vulnerability and certainty. What do you think? Olivia looked from the blueprints to the man who had taught her that love wasn't about finding perfection but about building something meaningful together. Something that could weather storms and adapt to changing needs while maintaining its essential structure. I think, she said, slipping the key around her neck, that some blueprints are worth following for a lifetime. As they stood together in the garden they designed, a physical manifestation of their journey from deception to truth, from fear to courage, Olivia understood what her clients had been trying to tell her all along. Love wasn't a destination to reach but a structure to build, maintain, and sometimes renovate, one honest day at a time. And with the right partner, even the renovation became part of the beauty. Thank you for joining us on Olivia and Marcus's journey from deception to deep connection. Remember that the most authentic relationships often begin when we stop hiding behind our carefully constructed facades and allow ourselves to be truly seen. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need a reminder that it's never too late to rebuild what matters most. At its heart, The Matchmaker's Match explores the beautiful contradiction of love, how it often arrives when we least expect it, flourishing outside the careful plans we construct to protect ourselves. Olivia and Marcus's journey reminds us that authentic connection requires more than compatibility algorithms or architectural precision. It demands the courage to be vulnerable, to reveal our true selves with all our flaws and fears. Their story shows us that sometimes the very qualities we hide, her romantic idealism beneath professional analysis, his emotional depth beneath logical structure, are precisely what make us worthy of love. Both characters begin their journey hiding behind professional facades and false identities. Olivia uses her matchmaking expertise to analyze love from a safe distance, while Marcus retreats into the mathematical certainty of architecture to avoid the unpredictable nature of emotional connection. Their deception of each other mirrors the deeper deception they practice on themselves, the belief that they can control love by containing it within safe parameters. The narrative challenges our cultural obsession with perfect timing and ideal circumstances. Marcus and Olivia meet at what seems like the wrong time. He's still healing from profound loss, she entangled in professional, ethical questions. Yet it is precisely this imperfect timing that creates the space for genuine growth. Their connection doesn't erase their individual struggles but provides a foundation from which to face them honestly. Perhaps most powerfully, the story suggests that healing is not a linear journey with a clear destination. Marcus doesn't get over his grief for Elise. Rather, he learns to carry it differently, to integrate it into his evolving identity. Olivia doesn't abandon her analytical understanding of relationships but expands it to include her own emotional truth. They help each other move forward not by fixing each other's pain but by recognizing and honoring it. The transformation of Olivia's business into Blueprint Connections symbolizes the story's central message, that love isn't about finding someone who matches us perfectly but about creating a shared architecture that accommodates both stability and growth. The strongest relationships, like the most enduring buildings, are those designed with flexibility, those that can weather storms and adapt to changing needs while maintaining their essential structure. In a world increasingly driven by algorithms promising perfect matches and curated social media suggesting perfect lives, The Matchmaker's Match offers a more honest vision of love, as a continuous process of building, maintaining, and sometimes renovating. It reminds us that the most beautiful connections often emerge from our most human moments, when we stop performing perfection and allow ourselves to be truly seen. Ultimately, the story affirms that love worth having isn't about finding someone who fits our predetermined criteria but about finding someone who sees our contradictions and complexities as features rather than flaws, someone who chooses to build alongside us, blueprint by blueprint, day by day. Love Enchanted family, we hope this story has touched your heart and perhaps given you a new perspective on love and connection. Remember that sometimes the most meaningful relationships begin when we step outside our carefully constructed plans and allow ourselves to be vulnerable. If you've enjoyed this journey with Olivia and Marcus, Please like this video, share it with someone who might need this message, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that explore the beautiful complexity of human connection. Until next time, keep your hearts open to unexpected blueprints.